I tell you what, we literally, I mean quite literally, cannot afford another 4 years of Biden.
Every time I think about or trying to move out my parents' house, the cost of living just get higher and higher. Like, insurance goes up, gas goes up, not to mention the fact that you got to make 3 times the rent of wherever you live at, which is kind of insane because the average person my age ain't even making what I'm making. Not to mention the fact that I check my pay stubs all the time. I'm not making as nearly as what I would make if they ain't take all them fucking taxes out of my checks every 2 weeks. Like, and I just been sitting here thinking, like, cause with me personally, when I moved out, I always wanted to move out by myself or with a significant other. And now I'm starting to realize when people move out, they get roommates. Or they move in college apartments with other people that they don't even fucking know of because the cost of living is too fucking high. How can I get a house these days? How can I get a house, bro? The average house is like 300 bands, you know what I'm saying? And like the average like monthly cost of it is like $2,500 a month. Like that's crazy. Like, and me personally, I never agreed with having to have more than one source of income. In my opinion, you having more than one source of income should be a choice. It shouldn't be, I shouldn't need 2 sources of income to fucking survive. I'm 23, bruh. God damn. I am fucking 23. And I'm already like having a midlife crisis for real. You know what I'm saying? Because I want to move out my parents' crib, but I ain't trying to live check to fucking check. Like, I'm sitting here making more money than I ever made ever in my life in a year span. And it's still not enough for me to fucking move out and be able to fucking sustain a living. Like, we're doomed, bro. And they wait until we get grown to do shit like this. Like, it's over with, bro. It's over with.
Now, obviously, the situation is not funny. I was just really laughing at how he was relaying the message. But honestly, kids these days can't even afford to transition out of their parents' houses because of Biden's inflation. Gas prices is too high. You know, the average cost of living is just way too much these days, man. And, you know, Biden has quite literally stood by as inflation rises and these companies continue to price gouge everything. Paying $6 for 2 gallons of milk, bro. It's crazy. We can't afford to live. Not to mention, you got mass migration happening right now, and they're giving them free money and giving them free rent and all of these free things, and they can't seem to bring inflation down whatsoever. That's pretty funny. That's pretty odd. Real people suffering. People are losing their homes. First-time home buyers are like, yo, that's a dream now. That's something to look forward to, hopefully in the future, or it's something that's a thing of the past for most. You know, I think a possible solution could be that Sleepy Joe just might have to go.
Thank you, Diana. Look, let's just get right to it, everybody. It's going to cost the average American about $500 more a month to just live. How does that help middle-income families in our country? How does that help poor families in our country? How does it help seniors on fixed income in our country? It does not. You know, when Joe Biden, when he first came in and he said he had a plan to save America, his American Rescue Plan, House Republicans told him that was going to be a disaster for America. We said it was going to lead to inflation. It did. We said it was going to create a labor shortage. It did. And so now, right now, in the Budget Committee, House Democrats are having a hearing to talk about all of the importance of the American Rescue Plan. Folks, we know the truth. If your plan worked, you don't have to hold congressional hearings to prove it. The proof is in the pudding. Every American would know it. If you're filling up a Suburban anywhere in the United States, it's going to cost you about $125 to $145 to fill it up. That $145 to fill up your Suburban, just to pick up your kids from practice to go back and forth to work, that's money you don't have to put food on the table. But guess what? The food to put on the table costs more too. So that takes away from you being able to have fun this summer like Diana was just talking about. You can't take that vacation. You can't go buy that new article of clothing. You can't go do the next thing that you choose to do. This inflation is the largest tax increase on poor families and middle-income families in decades in the United States, all brought to us by Joe Biden. Frankly, a president who has no idea how an economy actually works. This White House likes to talk about building an economy for the middle class. That's literally what they were saying yesterday. The president's probably going to say it in about an hour in Philadelphia. Well, guess what, folks? An economy for the middle class doesn't work if the economy doesn't work. The late, great Margaret Thatcher said it better than any of us ever could. Joe Biden and the Democrats would prefer the poor be poorer, so the rich are less rich. Joe Biden would prefer to build an economy that doesn't work for anybody, as opposed to letting the free market and, yes, trickle-down economics, which does work, actually flourish in the United States. Joe Biden and House Democrats would prefer we talk more about Uvalde, the tragedy that we all care about. They would care more about we're talking about dog collars and oversight later today or tomorrow. They would prefer to talk about January 6th than actually do the job here in Congress and actually work on supply chains, work on energy, work on inflation, and do our job for the American people. And last thing I'll say is this. For the people amongst the House Democrats and among the administration who say, oh, just go buy an electric car, it's better. Your electric car costs about $55,000 to $60,000 on average. Most Americans can't afford that. But then if you added 1 million more electric cars to the electric grid, there's not enough energy on the electric grid to actually power the electric cars you actually want to get in the United States. Oh, and by the way, when Joe Biden unleashed the Domestic Production Act, the Defense Production Act last week, for solar panels, where do we get those solar panels from? We don't mine that stuff in the United States, folks. That comes from China. So this administration would rather us take our resources, which are buying less products in the United States for our families, and ship those resources off to China to help the Chinese grow their economies while Americans suffer here at home.
That's insane.
It just doesn't work, folks. I don't need a congressional hearing to explain it. I see it every single day. Every American sees it every single day. And House Republicans are committed to reversing course and getting our nation back on track. With that, I'm going to yield to our whip, Mr. Steve Scalise, from the great state of Louisiana.
Here. Thank you, Byron. And President Biden's inflation increasing agenda is crushing the American dream for millions of families across the country. We've heard some of the stories. Families are already talking about canceling their summer vacation, not just because of the inflation, but because they can't even afford to fill their gas tank because gas prices are so high, more than double where they were when Joe Biden took the oath of office. If you look at all of the different crises that we've been talking about for the last year and a half that have been added onto and created by this president, from inflation to high gas prices, to the border crisis, to crime that's running rampant throughout our country, let alone the foreign policy debacles that we've seen over and over again. It's costing families thousands of dollars more. Just think about this. Last week, the House Natural Resources Committee, which is the committee that has jurisdiction over energy policy along with the House Energy and Commerce Committee, held a hearing. Now, you would think with skyrocketing gas prices, the Natural Resources Committee would hold a hearing about how to lower gas prices.
No.
They could actually move legislation
They're not gonna do
that we've recommended and urged them to take up to lower gas prices at the pump today. But no, that's not what they had the hearing on. The Natural Resources Committee had a hearing on big cats. That's right. Amidst this gas crisis that's crushing American families, taking money out of their pockets every single week when they fill up their vehicle, instead of...
And this is something that I've been seeing and hearing over and over, the same story. Oh, I've been making more money than I ever have in my life, but I've not been able to benefit from it. Every time I see profit, it's starting to get taken away by the rise in gas prices and the cost of living. And I'm happy that this discussion is being had right here and the American people actually get to see what's going on. You don't have to have Trump secretly messaging people and hitting up these influencers for them to create fake videos, unlike Biden. I just hope that it changes soon. Everybody I know in this moment right now, to some degree, are struggling, including myself. I'm not, exempt whatsoever. People in the middle class are more dead than ever. It's like a never-ending cycle, and it seems to just be getting worse. For even people with no kids. People with no kids and families, not even in a relationship. You ain't even got to worry about buying flowers for nobody. Out here struggling. And if it doesn't get any better, it's only going to reach the point where people truly, genuinely start to feel like they cannot survive. I'm sure that so many people have already met that realization. But that's what we leaning towards. $500 extra a month on average. Sheesh. Biden up here breaking up happy homes. It ain't funny, but this next clip is gonna give you a chuckle.
When your husband is delusional about food costs, he's trying to compare the receipt and all the items that I bought. You can go to the grocery store from now on. I'm done. I am done. Food is high. It's called inflation. Everything that we used to get for $50, it's not $50 no more, sir. It's not $50 no more.
He like, I don't want none of that.
Like triple the price now. Welcome to the reality of America right now, sir. Because you don't have a clue. Let me get Pilot together. It's time for Pilot to come out.
We got to solve for the government because this is ridiculous. This rent is crazy. Nobody paid no $1,700 to live. So hopefully I see this and we're going to sing them and write them this song, all right?
Yes.
You ready?
Yes.
Right here. Inflation, the bills are so high. Inflation, the rent is so high. Inflation, the eggs are so darn high. How can we survive? Inflation, please come bring these prices down before I move to Africa.
Talking about if he don't spice it down, he gonna move to Africa. Bro, I'm trying to tell you, man, the cost of living is just a little too much.